Morning, my friend. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. My name is Sam Scalf. I am the pastor over at Reveille. It's a little church over on Mountain View here in Longmont. We just celebrated being in this building for a year a couple Sundays ago.
Part of why I thought of asking you to help with this section is because I think that first time I met you, I knew we could be buddies because I saw several N.T. Wright books. One of those books was Tom Wright's biography on Paul. And
Yeah.
What did you think of that book?
What Tom's biography does is it really does a great job at humanizing Paul.
As I remember it, he takes Paul's words, I think in the first chapter about it, which says he despaired of life itself.
Mm.
He doesn't take that as like Paul just like being overly dramatic about having a bad day, but that Paul was actually wishing he wasn't alive and maybe even suffered something akin to a nervous breakdown.
That really helped me relate to him. It is Monday today, so
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Yesterday was Sunday, so
Yeah. So we have to remove all the sharp objects from. I think Paul he seems to go on several rants because he's it's pretty clear that he's torqued at these guys, and at times he gets kind of sarcastic with them as well, which does not seem very spiritual.
Paul is in the middle of raising funds for the church in Jerusalem. A lot of scholars put this particular work around 80, 55 through 60-ish in that area. And Jerusalem was a pretty tumultuous place at that point. They were going through a series of revolts against the Roman Empire at the time that ultimately affected the early church as well. And so the Christians there were struggling.
In addition to all the political upheaval going on there, and if you say 55 to 60, they're just 10 or 15 years removed from the city being raised.
Yeah, and that the city being raised doesn't come out of nowhere. It doesn't. There are things that lead up to that. If you study at all any of the history of that era, there's actually a really great historical book. It's by an author named Stephen Dando Collins, but it's about the Third Galaga Legion, which is basically any time you have an encounter with a Roman centurion or the Roman military or presence in the New Testament. This is the group of people that's stationed in that area. And even before they've been in that area since before Jesus, and so ultimately the emperor that comes in to destroy Jerusalem, Titus, is a general from that legion.
Okay.
And so the Jewish people in that area have double crossed the Roman outposts there several times. They've made agreements with the Roman leaders in there. They've signed treaties, they've shook hands, and then they turned around and attacked. And so they just get to the point where they're sick of dealing with it, and so they're a thorn in Rome's side.
I read sections of Josephus about the destruction of Jerusalem and the temple, and it's pretty it's gripping. It's not clean. It's just horrific. And of course, Jesus said it would happen. He prophesied it happening. And I guess there's also a famine in the middle of this upheaval. Paul's the one who outlines the theology of what salvation is and what it takes to get in and why circumcision is no longer required. But you have to wonder if the Jerusalem church would look at Paul's letters and say, "Oh, oy vey, I don't know about this. This is pretty radical stuff." Yeah. And so here he is raising money from the the questionable Gentile churches, which I'm sure the Jerusalem church is like, it's not just one or two, but there's churches springing up all over the place.
Yeah.
In their world, if the two centers of the planet are Jerusalem and Rome, here's Paul trying to have one foot in each, and so it's interesting that he's raising money from the questionable churches in their minds in order to help them through a tough time. Well, let's jump in. One verse I like in the context of Paul saying, it's okay for you guys to help the Jerusalem church. And I want to read chapter 8, verse 9. It says, for you know the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, that though he was rich, yet for your sake he became poor, so that you through his poverty might become rich. And it's one of Paul's great sort of juxtapositions. Jesus starts off rich, becomes poor, returns to his riches, so that we who start off poor can in turn become rich, whatever that means. But then we're not done. We're supposed to take our riches and go back to the poor. It's kind of this up, down, up, down, up, down kind of thing.
Yeah, we're not real good at that. I just in my observation, people feel like they're blessed so that they can be blessed.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, it's tough when you're not blessed and then you get some blessing. You want to hang on to it.
Yeah.
And if anyone seems to threaten it, then they're the enemy. And yet Paul seems to be saying, let's give what we've been blessed, so let's give it away, even to the people that we feel like are threatening it, of this ethnic break between the Jewish believers and the Gentile believers. And fortunately, we don't have any ethnic breaks in the world today.
Yeah, we've come a long way.
We sure have. Yeah. And no divisions in the church either.